The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of alien beings filled the massive space, their bodies ranging from the barely visible to the impossibly large. Some floated in containment fields filled with strange gases. Others stood on multiple legs, or no legs at all. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the sounds of 100 different languages being translated through neural implants. Ambassador Deho stood at the center of it all, feeling very small. His gray suit looked plain and simple, compared to the exotic appearances around him. Behind him stood 5 other humans, Earth's finest representatives. They had traveled 3 months to reach this place, hoping for a chance to join the great powers of the galaxy. Deho cleared his throat and began his speech. He spoke of Earth's achievements. Humans had mastered fusion power. They had built colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Their scientists had unlocked the secrets of quantum computing. They had even created early versions of faster-than-light engines, though they were still crude and unreliable. The chamber fell silent as he spoke. Deho felt a moment of hope. Perhaps they were listening. Perhaps they would understand that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Then the laughter began. It started as a low rumble from the reptilian delegates. Supreme Chancellor Vroctis, a massive creature covered in dark green scales, threw his head back and released a booming laugh that echoed through the chamber. Within seconds, others joined in. The insect-like beings clicked their mandibles in what Deho's translator rendered as mocking amusement. The crystalline entities chimed with sounds like breaking glass. Even the peaceful-looking beings with too many eyes seemed to ripple with humor. Deho's face burned with shame. He stood frozen, his prepared words dying in his throat. Vroctis finally stopped laughing long enough to speak. His voice was deep and filled with condescension. "Fusion power," he said, drawing out the words. "We mastered that technology 12,000 years ago. Your quantum computers? We use those as children's toys. And your FTL engines." He paused for dramatic effect. "We have species in this council who can fold space itself. You offer us nothing we do not already possess in far superior forms." Another delegate spoke up, a floating mass of tentacles. "They haven't even left their own star system, except for a few scattered colonies. They think this makes them worthy of joining us? Look at them," said a third voice, coming from a being made of pure light. "They still use physical bodies exclusively. They haven't even begun to explore digital consciousness or energy-based existence." So primitive. Deho tried to respond, to defend his species, but Vroctis raised a clawed hand for silence. "Earth's application for membership in the Interstellar Coalition is denied," he announced formally. "Furthermore, we are imposing trade restrictions. Your species has shown aggressive tendencies in your brief history. You wage wars among yourselves constantly. You cannot be trusted with advanced technology." "But," Deho began. "You are dismissed," Vroctis interrupted. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes gleaming. "Return to your little planet, human. Come back when you have survived your first real war, when you have faced annihilation and somehow lived. Then, perhaps, we will consider you more than children playing with fire." The chamber erupted in approving sounds from dozens of species. The message was clear. Humanity was nothing. They were insects to be ignored or crushed as convenient. The journey back to Earth took another 3 months. Deho spent much of that time staring out at the stars, replaying the humiliation over and over in his mind. The other delegates tried to comfort him, but the shame ran too deep. When they finally arrived home, Earth's leaders were waiting for answers. Deho stood before the United Earth Council and delivered his report. The room fell into stunned silence as he described the mockery and rejection. Fleet Admiral Taiwan slammed his fist on the table. "This is an insult we cannot ignore," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "We should begin immediate militarization. Build warships. Prepare for conflict." "With what?" asked another council member. You heard the report. Our best technology is primitive to them. Their weapons could destroy Earth from orbit before our ships even got close. The arguing continued for hours. Some wanted to submit to the Council's demands, to accept their place as a lesser species. Others wanted to fight regardless of the odds. A few suggested isolation, pulling back from space entirely. Then Dr. Hyunwoo Lee stood up. He was a thin man, with tired eyes and graying hair. He rarely spoke at these meetings, preferring to let others handle politics while he focused on research. But now he had something to say. There may be another option, he said quietly. The room turned to look at him. Admiral Taewon raised an eyebrow. What kind of option? Hyunwoo pulled out a data tablet and projected an image into the air. It showed complex mathematical equations and strange sensor readings. 3 years ago, my team was conducting experiments with our FTL drive prototypes. We had a failure. The drive tore a hole in space, but not in the way we expected. Get to the point, Doctor, someone said impatiently. We found another dimension, Hyunwoo said simply. A place where the laws of physics are different. We've been studying it in secret, trying to understand what it means. We call it Dimension Zero. The room erupted in questions. Hyunwoo raised his hands for quiet. I don't have all the answers yet. But I know this. In that dimension, time flows strangely. Space behaves differently. We might be able to build things there that would be impossible here. Technology that the Galactic Council has never seen because they don't know this dimension exists. Daeho felt something stir in his chest. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just desperate defiance. How long would it take? He asked. Hyunwoo met his eyes. To build something that could make a difference? With proper funding and resources? Maybe 2 years. Maybe 5. Time is strange there, remember. We could work for years in that dimension, while only months pass here. Admiral Taewon leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Doctor? I'm proposing we build a ship, Hyunwoo said. Not like anything humanity has made before. Not like anything the galaxy has seen. A vessel that uses the physics of both dimensions. Something that could level the playing field. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what Hyunwoo was really saying. This was their chance to prove Vraktis wrong. To show the galaxy that humanity was not weak or primitive. Finally, the council voted. The decision was unanimous. Project Horizon was born. Captain Minji Park stood at the edge of reality itself and wondered if she had gone insane. The portal before her looked like a wound in space. It flickered with colors that had no names, shifting between states of matter that should not exist. Through it, she could see the impossible. A vast, empty void where stars should be. Where the normal rules of the universe simply did not apply. First time never gets easier, said Dr. Hyunwoo Lee, standing beside her. The past 18 months of non-stop research had aged him considerably. Every time I step through, part of my brain screams that this is wrong. Minji nodded. She had been chosen to command Earth's most ambitious project 3 months ago. Since then, she had been training, studying, and preparing for what came next. But nothing could really prepare someone for Dimension Zero. Tell me again how this is possible, she said. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. We discovered it by accident during a failed FTL experiment. The drive created a tear between our dimension and this one. We almost lost the entire research station before we figured out how to close it. He gestured toward the portal. In our dimension, reality follows certain rules. Matter, energy, space, and time all behave in predictable ways. But in Dimension Zero, those rules are different. Not broken, just different. Time flows at a variable rate. A year here might equal a week back home, or a day, or an hour. It changes constantly. That sounds dangerous, Minji said. It is. But it also gives us an advantage. We can build and train in here while hardly any time passes on Earth. And the really interesting part is what happens to matter. Hyunwoo held up a small metal cube. This is made of standard titanium alloy. Watch. He tossed it through the portal. Minji watched as the cube entered Dimension Zero. For a moment, it seemed to blur and shift. Then it stabilized. But it looked different somehow. The metal had a strange sheen to it, almost like it was vibrating at a frequency her eyes could barely detect. The atomic structure changes slightly, Hyunwoo explained. The bonds between atoms become stronger in some ways, weaker in others. We can use this to create materials that would be impossible in normal space. Metals that phase between solid and energy states. Alloys that can exist in 2 dimensions at once. Minji felt a chill run down her spine. And you want to build a warship from this? Already started, Hyunwoo said. He pulled up a holographic display. Come on. Let me show you your new command. They stepped through the portal together. Minji felt a moment of disorientation as reality shifted around her. Her stomach lurched. Colors inverted, briefly. Then everything stabilized, and she found herself standing in Dimension Zero. The emptiness was overwhelming. No stars, no planets, no light except what came from Earth's equipment. Just an infinite void of nothing. It felt lonely in a way that made her chest tighten. But ahead of her, floating in the darkness, was Shipyard Omega. The construction facility was massive, a web of platforms and scaffolding stretching for kilometers. Thousands of workers moved among the structures, both in traditional spacesuits and in the new dimensional suits that Hyunwoo's team had developed. Lights blazed from welding torches and plasma cutters, and at the center of it all was the ship. Even incomplete, it was beautiful and terrible. The hull seemed to drink in light, making it difficult to look at directly. The shape was sleek and predatory, like a shark designed by someone who understood the mathematics of fear. Weapons, ports, dotted the surface. Still empty, but waiting to be filled. The HNS Horizon, Hyunwoo said quietly. Humanity's first true warship. Over the following weeks, Minji learned everything about her new ship. The hull was made of dimensional alloys that could shift between solid matter and pure energy. The engines used a hybrid system that drew power from both dimensions simultaneously, making it faster than anything the Galactic Council possessed. But the weapons were what truly amazed her. Chief Weapons Officer Kwan gave her the tour of the arsenal. Reality-phasing missiles, he explained, pointing to racks of sleek projectiles. They exist partially in Dimension Zero, and partially in normal space. They pass right through conventional shields and armor. By the time the target detects them, it's too late. What about defensive systems? Minji asked. Entropy shields? Kwan said with a grim smile. They accelerate time around incoming projectiles. A missile ages centuries in microseconds. It corrodes and falls apart before it reaches us. And if something does get through, the hull itself can phase between dimensions. You can't hit what doesn't fully exist. Then there was the main weapon, the causality cannon. Dr. Hyunwoo explained this one personally, and Minji had to ask him to repeat himself 3 times before she began to understand. It fires backwards through time, he said. Only by microseconds. But that's enough. The weapon predicts where the target will be and fires at that location in the past. From the enemy's perspective, they explode before we shoot. That's impossible, Minji said. In normal space, yes, but Dimension Zero has different rules about causality. We're just exploiting them. Her crew assembled over the following months. Corporal Ji-young Choi transferred from the Marines and showed an unexpected talent for dimensional navigation. The young woman seemed to have an instinct for the strange physics of Dimension Zero. Guiding training runs through the void with ease. It's like surfing, Ji-young explained one day after a particularly difficult exercise. You don't fight the wave. You feel it and move with it. Dimension Zero has currents and flows just like an ocean. You just have to learn to sense them. The crew trained relentlessly. They practiced phasing between dimensions while under simulated fire. They learned to fight in a space where time could flow at different rates for different parts of the ship. They mastered weapons that should not exist and defended against attacks that came from the past. Minji pushed them hard. Perhaps too hard. But she knew what was at stake. Earth was vulnerable. The Galactic Council had made that clear. This ship, this crew, might be humanity's only real defense. 6 months into training, an urgent message arrived from Earth. Admiral Taewan's face appeared on the screen, and Minji knew immediately something was wrong. "Captain Park," he said formally. "We have a situation. Council ships have been detected at the edge of our solar system. Long-range scouts, probably. But where scouts go, fleets follow." Minji felt her blood run cold. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. Could be weeks. Could be days. How close is the horizon to operational status?" Minji looked at the incomplete sections of her ship. The weapons were installed but not fully tested. The dimensional drive worked but sometimes glitched. The crew was trained but not experienced in actual combat. "We need more time," she said. "You might not get it," Admiral Taewan replied. "The Council is moving. Intelligence suggests they're planning something big. Maybe an invasion. Maybe just a show of force." After the transmission ended, Minji called her senior officers together. She explained the situation plainly. They were not ready. The ship was not ready. But ready or not, they might soon be called upon to defend their home. "What do we do?" asked Ji-young. Minji looked at each of them in turn. She saw fear in some eyes, determination in others. These people had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never come home. They had trained in an impossible dimension to master technology that defied understanding. They were not ready, but they were all Earth had. "We finished the job," Minji said firmly. "Work around the clock. I want every system tested and retested, every weapon calibrated, every crew member drilled until they can operate in their sleep. If the Council comes, they're going to learn that humanity doesn't surrender easily." The officers dispersed to their duties. Minji remained alone in the empty briefing room, staring out at the void of Dimension Zero. Somewhere beyond that darkness was home. Somewhere out there, Earth waited, vulnerable and afraid. The horizon's lights gleamed against the emptiness. It was not enough yet. Not quite ready. But it would have to be. We. Because ready or not, war was coming. The warning came 3 weeks later, in the middle of Earth's night cycle. Admiral Taewan was pulled from sleep by urgent alarms. He rushed to the command center, still fastening his uniform. The main display showed something that made his heart sink. Red icons filled the screen, dozens of them, appearing at the edge of the solar system. "Contact report," he barked. 212 ships, sir," said the sensor officer. Her voice shook slightly. "Council configuration. Mixed fleet. They just dropped out of FTL. Near the Kuiper Belt. 212. Earth's entire defensive fleet numbered 30 ships, and most of those were converted cargo vessels with hastily installed weapons. This was not a police action, or a show of force. This was an invasion fleet. "Get me Ambassador Daeho," Taewan ordered. "And someone wake up the president." Within the hour, Earth's leadership assembled in the emergency bunker beneath Geneva. Screens showed the Council fleet, holding position at the system's edge, making no moves yet, but clearly visible. They wanted Earth to see them, to understand how hopeless resistance would be. Then the transmission came. The face that appeared on every screen across Earth was not Supreme Chancellor Vraktis. This was someone new, a being that looked like it was made from living metal. Its eyes glowed with cold blue light. When it spoke, the translator rendered its voice as emotionless and final. "I am Fleet Commander Orthax of the Galactic Council Military Forces. The planet known as Earth is hereby notified of the following. Your application for Council membership was denied. Your species has been classified as potentially hostile and technologically immature. Under Council law, such species must be brought under protective administration for the safety of the galaxy. Protective administration. The words were carefully chosen to sound benign, but everyone knew what they meant. Subjugation. Conquest. Orthax continued. You have 48 hours to comply with the following terms. All weapons must be deactivated. All spacecraft must be grounded. Your governments must dissolve and accept Council oversight. Failure to comply will result in military action. This is your only warning. Everyone, every teen, the transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. Can we fight? The president asked quietly. Admiral Taiwan pulled up tactical projections. The numbers told the story clearly. Even if Earth's fleet fought perfectly, even if every ship took down 2 or 3 Council vessels before being destroyed, they would still lose. The math was simple and brutal. We can fight, Taiwan said, but we cannot win. Not with conventional forces. Ambassador Deho spoke up. I'll try to negotiate. Buy us time. Time for what? Someone asked. Taiwan and Deho exchanged glances. Neither spoke of Project Horizon. The fewer people who knew, the better. But they both understood. Everything depended on whether Captain Minji Park and her impossible ship were ready. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of desperate activity. Deho opened communication channels with the Council fleet, pleading for more time. For a chance to discuss terms, Orthax refused every request. The countdown continued. Meanwhile, Admiral Taiwan mobilized Earth's fleet. 30 ships launched from orbital stations, positioning themselves in a defensive formation near Mars. The crews knew they were likely flying to their deaths, but they went anyway. Someone had to stand between Earth and the invaders, even if only for a few precious minutes. On Earth itself, panic spread. Millions tried to evacuate cities, heading for underground shelters or remote areas. Others refused to hide, gathering in public squares to watch the sky and wait for whatever came next. News channels broadcast continuously, showing the Council fleet growing larger as it moved deeper into the solar system. In Dimension Zero, Captain Minji Park received the news while overseeing final weapons tests. 48 hours, she said quietly. Dr. Hyunwoo, is the ship ready? The scientist looked at diagnostic readouts and frowned. The dimensional drive needs another week of calibration. 3 of the secondary weapon systems are still glitching, and we haven't even begun full combat drills with live ammunition. That's not what I asked. Can she fight? Hyunwoo met her eyes. She can fight. Whether she can win is another question. Minji turned to her assembled crew. Over 400 men and women stood before her, the best Earth had to offer. They had trained for this moment, but training and reality were very different things. You all know what's happening, she said. Earth is being invaded. Our families, our friends, everyone we care about is in danger. The Council thinks we're helpless. They think we'll surrender without a fight or die trying to resist with primitive weapons. She paused, looking at each face. They're wrong. We have something they've never seen. Technology they can't even imagine. We are going to show them that humanity does not submit. We are going to show them what happens when you underestimate us. But I won't lie to you. This ship is not fully ready. We haven't completed all our tests. Some systems might fail in combat, and we'll be facing 200 enemy vessels with experience in hundreds of battles. Corporal Ji-young raised her hand. Permission to speak, Captain? Granted, the young woman smiled. They've never fought anyone from Dimension Zero before. They don't know about phasing armor or causality weapons. They're going to be just as confused and scared as we are. Maybe more. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crew. Minji felt a surge of pride. These people were ready, even if the ship was not quite there yet. Battle stations, she ordered. We launch in 6 hours. Back in normal space, the 48-hour deadline expired. Admiral Taiwan's fleet waited near Mars, weapons armed but holding fire. On his main screen, the Council fleet began moving forward, 212 ships advancing in perfect formation, their weapons charging with visible energy discharges. Orthax's final transmission was brief. "You have chosen war. So be it." The battle began without ceremony. Council ships opened fire from extreme range. Beams of concentrated plasma crossed millions of kilometers in seconds. Earth's ships scattered, trying to present harder targets, but the enemy fire was devastatingly accurate. The first human ship died within seconds, its hull melting under sustained bombardment. Then a second. A third. Taiwan ordered return fire. Earth's missiles and railgun projectiles streaked toward the enemy. A few struck home, and Taiwan felt a moment of hope as a Council destroyer's shields flickered and failed. But then the ship simply regenerated its defenses and kept coming. Their technology was too advanced. The gap too wide. All ships, fighting withdrawal toward Mars, Taiwan ordered. Make them work for every kilometer. The retreat was orderly but costly. Earth's ships fell back, firing as they went, trying to inflict casualties while staying alive. It was not enough. The Council fleet pressed forward relentlessly. Then Orthax made his statement. His flagship targeted the Martian colony of New Beijing, one shot. Just one massive discharge from their primary weapon. The colony, home to 300,000 people, simply ceased to exist. The dome shattered. The buildings vaporized. In an instant, 300,000 lives were gone. Taiwan stared at the screen in horror. This was not war. This was extermination. "All ships, full attack," he ordered. Strategy no longer mattered. All that mattered was making the enemy pay. Earth's remaining vessels charged forward in a desperate assault. They fired everything they had. Some rammed Council ships when their weapons ran dry. It was brave and futile and heartbreaking. Orthax watched the humans' final stand with something like amusement. These primitives had courage. He would grant them that. But courage meant nothing against superior firepower. He prepared to give the order to advance on Earth itself. One more bombardment would break their spirit. Then, they would accept terms. That was when space tore open. The rift appeared between Earth and Mars, a gash in reality itself. Every sensor in both fleets went haywire. Alarms shrieked. Displays showed impossible readings. Through the tear came something that should not exist. The HNS Horizon emerged from Dimension Zero like a knife cutting through fabric. Its hull seemed to absorb light, making it difficult to focus on. The ship phased in and out of visibility, existing in two dimensions simultaneously. Orthax stared at the impossible vessel. "What is that?" he demanded. His sensor officers had no answer. Their equipment could not properly scan the newcomer. It registered as matter and energy, and neither. It appeared on sensors, and then vanished. Then reappeared somewhere slightly different. Captain Minji Park sat in the command chair of the Horizon, her hands steady despite her racing heart. "This is HNS Horizon. To all Earth forces. We have the enemy. Fall back and cover the wounded." Admiral Taiwan felt tears on his face as he heard that transmission. Project Horizon had succeeded. Humanity's secret weapon had arrived. "All ships, you heard the captain," he ordered. "Pull back. Let's see what our people built." The Horizon hung in space between the battered Earth fleet and the massive Council armada. One ship against 200. The odds were impossible. Minji smiled grimly. "Weapons, target the nearest enemy cruiser. Show them what we can do." Fleet Commander Orthax had fought in 73 battles across 40 star systems. He had seen weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand supernovas. He had conquered species with technology far beyond primitive humanity's capabilities. But he had never seen anything like the ship now facing him. "Scan that vessel," he ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." His sensor officer worked frantically at the controls. "Sir, I'm getting contradictory readings. The ship appears to be constructed from matter that exists in an unstable quantum state. It's phasing between different dimensional frequencies. Our sensors can't lock on properly. Everyone. Thanks for watching. Everyone. Everyone. The second bice. Everyone. Then use visual targeting. Prepare to fire. Before Orthax could give the order to attack, the human ship moved. It did not accelerate in any conventional sense. One moment it hung in space. The next moment it was somewhere else entirely, as if it had simply decided to exist in a different location. Captain Minji Park's voice came across all channels, clear and cold. This is HNS, Horizon to the Council Fleet. You came to our home system uninvited. You destroyed our colony. You threatened our people. You will leave now, or you will be destroyed. Orthax laughed. One ship makes demands of an entire fleet? Your arrogance will be your death, human. No, Minji said quietly. Your ignorance will be yours. Weapons, fire. The Horizon's first shot was a reality-phasing missile. To the Council sensors, it appeared as a brief flash of exotic radiation. Then, one of their cruisers simply vanished. Not destroyed in an explosion. Not torn apart. Just gone. Erased from existence, as if it had never been. The Council fleet erupted into chaos. What just happened? Orthax demanded. Where is the Valor's pride? The unknown, sir, stammered his tactical officer. Our sensors show nothing. No debris field. No energy signature. The ship just stopped existing. Orthax felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear. All ships, open fire on that vessel. Destroy it now. 211 warships turned their weapons on the Horizon. The space between them filled with energy beams, plasma bolts, and antimatter torpedoes. Enough firepower to annihilate a small moon converged on the single human ship. None of it connected. Lieutenant Jiyoung stood at the navigation station, her hands dancing across the controls with practiced ease. She could feel the dimensional currents flowing around the ship, the places where reality was thin. She guided the Horizon through them like a surfer riding impossible waves. The ship phased out of normal space just as the barrage arrived. The weapons passed through empty space where the Horizon had been microseconds before. Then the ship phased back in, untouched, several thousand kilometers from its previous position. Their targeting systems are too slow, Jiyoung reported. They're aiming at where we were, not where we are. As long as I keep us moving between dimensions, they can't hit us. Understood, Minji said. Weapons. Target the command ship. Let's make this personal, Chief Weapons Officer Quan grinned. Causality cannon ready, Captain. Firing solution locked. The causality cannon was humanity's most disturbing creation. It did not fire in the present. It fired backwards through time, striking targets in the past. The effect was subtle. Only microseconds. But microseconds were enough. Orthax saw his flagship's forward shields collapse. Then, he saw the damage appear on the hull. Then, finally, he saw the Horizon fire. The sequence was backwards, impossible, wrong on every level. They shot us before they fired, his tactical officer said, in a voice filled with disbelief. How is that possible? 1. Evasive action, Orthax ordered. But how did you evade a weapon that hit you before it fired? How did you defend against something that violated causality itself? The Horizon pressed its advantage. Reality-phasing missiles slipped through shields as if they were not there. The causality cannon picked off ships before they could react, and through it all, the ship itself remained untouchable, phasing between dimensions whenever danger came close. But Captain Minji Park knew they could not keep this up forever. The Horizon was performing beyond expectations, but it was still just one ship. The Council fleet was adapting, learning. Their targeting computers were beginning to predict the Horizon's movements. Sooner or later, something would get through. How many have we destroyed? She asked. 47, confirmed, Quan reported. Another dozen damaged and withdrawing. Still, over 150 hostile vessels remained. Orthax was regrouping his forces, pulling them into a tighter formation. He was learning. "Captain," Ji-young said urgently, "I'm detecting a massive energy buildup. The command ship and 50 others are forming some kind of energy web. They're trying to surround us." After, Minji studied the tactical display. Orthax was not stupid. If he could not hit the horizon with weapons, he would trap it. The energy web would create a cage that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Even the horizon could not phase through that. Time until the web is complete? 90 seconds. Minji made her decision. All power to entropy shields. Helm, take us directly at the command ship. Full speed. Ji-young's eyes widened. "Captain, that's suicide. They'll hit us for sure at that range. Trust me, Lieutenant. Just do it." The horizon surged forward, accelerating toward the center of the Council formation. 50 enemy ships opened fire at once. The horizon's shields flickered under the assault, struggling to age all the incoming projectiles before they struck. Some got through. Alarms blared as the hull took direct hits. Damage reports flooded in from all sections. But the ship held together, driven by determination and impossible physics. Orthax watched the human ship charging directly at him and felt grudging respect. They were brave, these primitives. Foolish, but brave. "All ships, maintain fire. They're trying to ram us. Destroy them before." He never finished the sentence. The horizon reached the center of the Council formation and activated its entropy shields at maximum power. The effect was instantaneous and horrific. Time itself accelerated around the ship in a rapidly expanding sphere. The 50 nearest Council vessels aged centuries in seconds. Hull plating corroded and flaked away. Power cores degraded and failed. Life support systems broke down. Entire crews grew old and died in the span of heartbeats. Orthax's flagship was caught at the edge of the effect. Half the ship aged into useless scrap metal. The other half remained intact, creating a grotesque hybrid of functional systems and corroded ruin. Orthax himself survived, protected by emergency stasis fields in the command center. But as he looked at the destruction around him, as he saw 50 of his finest ships reduced to derelict hulks, he understood the truth. They could not win this fight. "All ships," he transmitted, his voice shaking. "Retreat. Full withdrawal. Jump to FTL as soon as..." My. Another reality-phasing missile erased what remained of his flagship's main reactor. The ship went dark. Life support failed. Orthax's last thought was that he had underestimated humanity. It was a fatal mistake. The horizon hung in space, surrounded by the debris of the Council's finest. 50 ships reduced to scrap, 47 more destroyed completely. The remaining vessels were already jumping to FTL, fleeing in panic and disorder. In the command center, Captain Minji Park allowed herself to breathe. They had done it. Against all odds, against superior numbers, they had won. But the victory had come at a cost. Damage reports continued to pour in. The horizon's hull was scorched and pitted. 2 of the dimensional drives were offline. Casualties numbered 37 crew members, killed when enemy fire breached a section before the entropy shields could protect them. "Status report," Minji ordered. "We're spaceworthy, but barely," said the engineering officer. "We need to return to Dimension Zero for repairs. Major systems are failing across the ship." Minji nodded. "Helm, plot a course back to Shipyard Omega. Weapons. Keep scanning for any Council ships that didn't retreat." "Captain," said Ji-young quietly. "We did it. We actually did it." "Yes," Minji said, allowing herself a small smile. "We did. Now let's go home." The horizon tore open a portal to Dimension Zero and slipped through, vanishing from normal space as completely as it had appeared. Behind them, Admiral Taewon's battered fleet began rescue operations among the wreckage. On Earth, billions of people watched the impossible victory and wept with relief. In the void of space, the debris of the Council fleet drifted silently. A message had been sent, written in shattered hulls and broken dreams. Humanity would not submit, and they had the power to back up that defiance. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, in 100 different languages, the impossible story was told and retold. The Council fleet, 200 strong, had been defeated by a single human warship, 50 vessels destroyed in moments. The rest fled in terror. Fleet Commander Orthax was dead. His flagship, a tomb drifting in Earth's solar system. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, Supreme Chancellor Vractus listened to the reports with growing disbelief. The species he had mocked so casually had somehow developed weapons beyond anything known to galactic science. How is this possible? He demanded. Our intelligence said the humans were primitive. They barely had functional FTL drives a year ago. His advisors had no good answers. Some suggested the humans had found ancient technology, relics from one of the extinct precursor races. Others theorized they had made a deal with unknown entities from beyond explored space. A few whispered about dimensional manipulation. Though no one really understood what that meant, what everyone agreed on was simple. Humanity could not be conquered by force. Not anymore. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had been subjugated by the council saw opportunity. If the mighty fleet could be defeated, then perhaps the council's authority was not absolute after all. Rebellion stirred on a dozen worlds. Trade agreements were suddenly questioned. Military alliances began to fracture. Vractus tried to maintain order, but his voice was drowned out by the growing tumult. The empire he had helped build over centuries was cracking. On Earth, the mood was very different. Ambassador Deho stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt orbital station, looking down at the planet below. Cities blazed with light. Celebration filled the streets. Humanity had survived. More than survived. They had won. Admiral Taiwan joined him, moving stiffly. The old soldier had been wounded in the battle, taking shrapnel when his flagship's bridge was hit, but he had refused to stay in medical care during the victory celebrations. We lost good people, Taiwan said quietly. 18 ships, over 4,000 crew members, and the Martian colony. I know, Deho replied. But we're still here. Earth is still free. That's worth celebrating, even as we mourn. Deho. End quote. What happens now? Taiwan asked. The council will respond eventually. They can't just ignore this. Deho smiled slightly. Actually, they already have responded. We received a transmission this morning. The council requests our presence at a special session. They want to discuss terms. Terms? They want to negotiate? More than that. They want to offer us membership, full membership, with all rights and privileges. Taiwan laughed bitterly. 6 months ago they called us primitives. Now they want us to join them? Fear is a powerful motivator, Deho said. They're afraid of what else we might have hidden. They want us inside the council, where they can watch us. And they want our technology, though they're too proud to say that directly. In Dimension Zero, the Horizon underwent extensive repairs. Captain Minji Park walked the ship's corridors, noting the damage that still needed fixing. Scorch marks on the walls, sections sealed off due to hull breaches, the cost of victory written in metal and blood. She found Lieutenant Ji Young in the navigation room, studying dimensional current maps. You did well, Minji said. Your piloting saved us several times over. Ji Young looked up, her young face serious. Captain, I've been thinking. We won this battle because they didn't know what we could do. But now they know. Next time they'll be ready. Then we need to stay ahead of them, Minji replied. Dr. Hyunwoo is already working on improvements. New weapons. Better shields. We can't stand still. Is there going to be a next time? Minji was quiet for a moment. I hope not. But We need to be ready if there is. 3 weeks after the battle, Ambassador Deho returned to the Galactic Council chamber. This time he did not come as a supplicant. He walked in flanked by guards, with Admiral Taiwan at his side. Captain Minji Park attended via hologram, the horizon visible behind her in the transmission. The chamber was packed. But this time there was no laughter. The assembled species watched humanity with wary respect and barely concealed fear. Supreme Chancellor Vraktis opened the session. He looked older somehow, diminished. Ambassador Deho of Earth, the Council recognizes you. Deho stepped forward. Thank you, Chancellor. I believe you wanted to discuss terms? Vraktis nodded stiffly. The Council acknowledges that our initial assessment of humanity was flawed. We underestimated your technological capabilities and military potential. We wish to extend an offer of full membership in the Interstellar Coalition. Under what conditions? Deho asked. The standard terms. You would have voting rights, access to trade networks, protection under Council law. In exchange, you would share your dimensional technology with the Council for study and replication. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew this was the real ask. The Council wanted humanity's weapons. Deho smiled coldly. No, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Vraktis's eyes narrowed. No? Earth will not share our defensive technologies, Deho said firmly. Not with the Council. Not with anyone. You came to our home system with an invasion fleet. You destroyed one of our colonies. You threatened our entire species with subjugation. And now you want us to give you the weapons we use to survive? You would refuse Council membership over this? Vraktis asked. We would refuse membership under those terms, Deho corrected. But we have terms of our own. He pulled up a document and projected it for all to see. Earth proposes a reformed interstellar coalition. One based on genuine democracy, not imperial hierarchy. One that protects the sovereignty of member species rather than subjugating them. One where membership is voluntary and conquests are forbidden. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered. Others protested angrily. Vraktis demanded silence. This is unacceptable, he said. The Council has maintained order in this galaxy for millennia. Your proposed changes would create chaos. Captain Minji Park's hologram spoke up. Your order maintained itself through threats and violence. You kept smaller species in line by intimidating them. Well, you can't intimidate us anymore. And I suspect there are others who feel the same way. She was right. Already, representatives from a dozen species were standing to voice support for Earth's proposal. Species that had been conquered. Species that had been threatened into compliance. They saw humanity's victory as proof that the Council could be challenged. Vraktis looked around the chamber, seeing his authority crumbling. Finally, he spoke. The Council will take Earth's proposal under consideration. We will reconvene in 1 week. It took 3 weeks, not 1. The debates were fierce and often bitter. Old alliances fractured, new ones formed. Several species withdrew from the Council entirely, rather than accept the proposed reforms. But in the end, enough votes were secured. The Interstellar Coalition was reformed along the lines Earth proposed. Democratic governance, protection of sovereignty, prohibitions on conquest and subjugation. Vraktis resigned in disgrace, and a new leadership council was elected. Earth became a founding member of the new coalition. Ambassador Deho was elected as the first Secretary General, tasked with overseeing the transition to the new system. The dimensional technology remained humanity's secret. The Horizon returned to Dimension Zero, joined by 2 sister ships under construction. Captain Minji Park continued to command, training new crews and exploring the strange physics of the impossible dimension. Admiral Taiwan rebuilt Earth's conventional fleet, incorporating some dimensional principles but keeping the most advanced technology restricted. Earth would share enough to help defend smaller species, but not enough to threaten the balance of power. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee continued his research into Dimension Zero. He made discoveries that both excited and troubled him. The dimension was not as empty as they had initially thought. There were patterns in the void, structures too regular to be natural. Sometimes his sensors detected movement in the deep darkness beyond their installations. One night, he shared his concerns with Captain Minji Park during one of her visits to the research station. "We don't really understand this place," Hyunwoo said. "We're using it, building in it, but we don't know what it is or why it exists. And I keep finding evidence that we're not the first ones here." "What do you mean?" Minji asked. Hyunwoo pulled up sensor logs. They showed faint energy signatures detected at the edges of their scanning range. Patterns that might be ancient structures, or might be something else entirely. "I think Dimension Zero had inhabitants once," he said. "Or maybe it still does. And they're just so different from us that we can't detect them properly. Either way, we're building warships in someone else's home." Minji felt a chill. "What do you recommend?" "Be careful. Be respectful. Don't expand too fast or too far. And keep the horizon ready, because we might need it for more than just fighting the Council." 6 months after the battle, Earth held a memorial service for those lost defending the planet. 18 ships' worth of names were read aloud. 300,000 Martian colonists were remembered. The ceremony lasted for hours, and Captain Minji Park attended in full dress uniform, standing at attention as each name was spoken. Corporal Ji Young, now Lieutenant Ji Young, stood beside her. When the ceremony ended, and the crowds dispersed, the young officer spoke quietly. "Was it worth it, Captain? All those lives? Just to prove we weren't weak?" Minji was quiet for a long time. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "We survived. We changed the galaxy. But the cost was high. I think about the people we lost every day. Do you think we'll have to fight again? Probably. There are always those who prefer violence to negotiation. But next time, maybe we'll have allies. Maybe we won't face it alone." Well, they stood together in silence, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. The old empire was crumbling. A new order was being born. And humanity, once mocked as primitive children, had become one of its architects. In Dimension Zero, the horizon waited in the darkness. Its weapons were silent. Its shields were down. But the ship remained ready. A sword, waiting to be drawn if needed. They had laughed at humanity once. They would never make that mistake again.